The first letter arrived in July 2003, tucked inside a stiff white envelope with the HOA logo stamped in red. I was sorting mail in my kitchen when I saw it. Notice of violation. Unauthorized exterior modification asterisk. My heart sank. I'd just spent $12,000 on solar panels, hoping to cut my energy bills and do my part for the planet. Now Marvin Henderson wanted to fine me $500 every month. Damn it, I muttered, crumpling the paper. My wife Lisa peeked over my shoulder. What is it? She asked, her brow furrowing. I showed her the letter. Her eyes widened. But they're solar panels. Everyone's talking about going green. I sighed, running a hand through my graying hair. Tell that to Colonel Henderson. He thinks they ruin the skyline. Lisa shook her head. This is ridiculous. We checked the bylaws before we installed them. They said nothing about solar panels. I nodded, but dread settled in my stomach. Henderson wasn't big on logic. He was big on control. Have you ever dealt with an HOA that made your life miserable? Share your story in the comments. Let's commiserate. I'd love to hear how you fought back. Oakwood Estates was supposed to be our retirement dream. Lisa. And I moved here 5 years ago, lured by the quiet streets, the friendly neighbors, and the promise of a well-maintained community. At first, it was perfect. We joined block parties, chatted with the mailman, and admired the azaleas in Mrs. Peterson's yard. But then Henderson became HOA president, and things changed. He started enforcing rules with a vengeance, fining people for grass that was too tall. It was 3.5 inches, not 3. Banning outdoor clotheslines, even though we live in Michigan, where drying laundry outside saves money, and sending cease and desist letters to kids selling lemonade. One neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, got fined $200 for painting his fence a slightly darker brown than the HOA's approved shade. It's brown Marvin, he'd shouted at the monthly meeting. How many shades of brown do you need? Henderson had responded with a steely glare. Rules are rules, Mr. Jenkins. If you don't like it, you can sell your house. That's when I knew he wasn't here to maintain order. He was here to flex power. And when I installed those solar panels, black, sleek, mounted on my south-facing roof, I became his latest target. The second letter came a week later. This time it was a asterisk final notice asterisk. Pay $500 by August 15th, or face further legal action. I crumpled it again, this time with more force. Lisa handed me a cup of coffee. Why don't you talk to him? Maybe he'll listen. I raised an eyebrow. Marvin Henderson. Listen, he's the kind of guy who salutes his own reflection in the mirror. But deep down, I knew she was right. Maybe if I explained the environmental benefits, he'd soften. So I went to the HOA office, the little trailer at the edge of the neighborhood, on a sweltering August afternoon. Henderson was sitting behind a desk, wearing a crisp white shirt and a tie, even though it was 90 degrees outside. He looked up when I entered, his jaw set. Mr. Miller, he said, his voice flat. To what do I owe the pleasure? I sat down, trying to stay calm. Marvin, I installed solar panels to save money and reduce my carbon footprint. The bylaws don't prohibit them. He held up a hand, cutting me off. The bylaws say exterior modifications must be approved by the HOA in writing. You didn't get approval. Therefore, it's a violation. But the bylaws don't mention solar panels specifically, I argued. Henderson leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Doesn't matter. The board decided last month that solar panels are aesthetic hazards. My blood boiled. Aesthetic hazards? They're asterisk solar panels, asterisk. They help the environment, he shrugged. We value consistency here, Mr. Miller. If we let you keep them, everyone will want to install ugly contraptions. Next thing you know, we'll have wind. Turbines in people's yards. I stood up, fists clenched. This isn't about consistency, it's about control. You just don't like anything that's different. Henderson smiled, a cold, patronizing smile. Control is what makes this neighborhood great, Mr. Miller. If you can't handle it, maybe you should find somewhere else to live. I left, without another word, slamming the door behind me. Lisa was waiting in the car. "Well?" she asked. "He won't budge," I said, climbing in. "He thinks solar panels are ugly." She sighed. "Then we fight. We can't let him push us around like this." The third letter arrived 2 days later. This time it was a asterisk lawsuit threat asterisk. Pay $500 plus $200 in late fees, or we will file a lien against your property. I stared at it, my hands shaking. Lisa took it from me, her expression grim. "We need a lawyer," she said. I nodded, already reaching for the phone book. But when I called local attorneys, most told me the same thing. HOA cases are expensive, and the odds are against you. They have deep pockets. One lawyer, however, gave me hope, Miss Rachel Carter, a no-nonsense woman with a reputation for taking on bullies. "I've dealt with Marvin Henderson before," she said when I met her. "He's a piece of work. But if you have evidence of their unfair practices, we can win. Evidence." That's when I remembered the HOA newsletters. Every month, they sent out a glossy pamphlet bragging about how they maintain the neighborhood's beauty, but they never mentioned where the money came from. I'd always wondered why our dues kept going up, even though the neighborhood looked the same. Ms. Carter and I dug into the HOA's finances. We found receipts for a $10,000 landscaping upgrade that never happened. Henderson had pocketed the money. We found emails where he'd told the board to target residents who complained about the rules. And we found a memo where he'd written, "Solar panels are a threat to our way of life. We must eliminate them." It was enough. Miss Carter filed a lawsuit, and the court date was set for October 2003, the day of the trial. I sat in the courtroom, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. Lisa was beside me, holding my hand. Henderson sat across from us, flanked by 2 lawyers. He looked smug, like he knew he'd win. The judge, a stern-looking woman named Judge Bennett, called the case to order. Miss Carter presented our evidence. First, the fake landscaping receipts, the emails, the memo about solar panels. The judge flipped through the documents, her brow furrowing. "Mr. Henderson," she said, turning to him, "did you approve these expenditures?" Henderson cleared his throat. "Yes, Your Honor, but the bylaws require all expenditures over $5,000 to be voted on by the board," Judge Bennett interrupted. "You approved this without a vote, is that correct?" Henderson shifted in his seat. "Well, yes, but—" "And this memo," the judge continued, holding up the document about solar panels. "You wrote this, correct?" "Yes, but—" "No. But, Mr. Henderson, this is clear evidence of discriminatory enforcement. The HOA fined Mr. Miller for his solar panels while ignoring other exterior modifications, like Mr. Jenkins' fence, which was painted a darker brown than approved." Henderson's face turned red. "That's not true. We enforce all rules equally." Judge Bennett raised an eyebrow. "Really? Then why did you fine Mr. Miller $500/month for his panels, but let Mrs. Thompson keep her pink flamingo statue, which violates the no tacky decorations rule?" Henderson opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer. The judge slammed her gavel. Case dismissed. The HOA must pay Mr. Miller $150,000 in damages for emotional distress, legal fees, and punitive damages for their corrupt practices. The courtroom erupted in gasps. Henderson's lawyers whispered urgently to him. He stood up, his face pale, and walked out without looking at us. We won. $150,000. Enough to pay off our mortgage, buy a new car, and move to a small town in northern Michigan where no one cared about solar panels or HOA rules. When we packed up our house, the neighbors came to say goodbye. Mrs. Peterson brought a pie. Mr. Jenkins shook my hand. "Good riddance to that bastard," he said, smiling. Lisa, and I drove away, watching Oakwood Estates shrink in the rearview mirror. I felt a mix of relief and sadness. I'd loved that neighborhood once, but Henderson had ruined it. Looking back, I realized that sometimes standing up to bullies is worth it, even if it means leaving the place you love. Marvin Henderson thought he could control us, but he forgot that justice doesn't bow to power. What's the sweetest act of revenge you've ever witnessed? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it.